Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Dala Creative TV. In this week's lesson, I am going to play with China clay and see what it does to different Dala mediums and paints. Kaolin is also called China clay and is a soft white clay that is an essential ingredient in the manufacture of china and porcelain, and is widely used in the making of paper, rubber, paint, and many other products. In powder form, we can add it to different mediums and paints to change the opacity and the texture. I have never used China clay before, and I'm very curious to see what it is going to do if I'm going to mix it with different mediums and paints. I'm very careful when I open this package because it is a very fine and soft white powder. It almost feels like plaster of Paris, but it is not quite the same. And today we are going to experiment using it. Okay, so one of Dala's new products are these canvas pads that is already primed to paint on. So I've got an A3 size here. It also comes in an A4 size, and I am going to use this with some tear-off palette to mix my paints and paint some squares to see how it reacts with the China clay powder. I'm starting with gel medium. I am going to create a texture paste with the powder and mix it in with the gel medium. I am going to start mixing in just a little bit of the powder to see how it changes the texture of my gel medium. While I am mixing, I can already see and feel that it turns into a smooth and silky texture paste that I would be able to use in my paintings, as well as do some stencil work to create texture. Because I'm working with white powder and gel medium, I'm going to use some of this black board, also available by Dala, to practice on and show you the results. I am mixing in more powder because I want to see what happens when I use it as a texture paste and if it is going to crack, and then I'm also going to use it in a stencil. Okay, so I accidentally forgot to press record, but I have stenciled with this texture paste an intricate and fine detailed stencil, and it looks incredible. I love it, and I can't wait for it to dry to see the result. You can also use it with acrylic paints to change the opacity and the texture of the paint, but I am curious to see what is going to happen if I use craft paint. So I'm going to add some powder to my tear-off palette, and then I will use this beautiful pink color craft paint, and I'm going to mix in some of the china clay to see how it changes the texture and the opacity of my paint. Okay, so I've painted 3 blocks. The top block is just the normal craft paint. The second one I've added a little bit of the china clay, and the last one even more. It changes the craft paint into a silky smooth creamy paint that almost feels like acrylics. I'm also going to mix in some china clay into the oil paint to look at the results. I'm going to start by painting a block with the oil just as it is from the tube, and you can see that it is a little bit translucent, and if you do use the oil paint, you will have to achieve a completely opaque color, you will have to paint 2 or 3 layers. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of the china clay powder, and I can already feel with my palette knife that it turns the oil paint into, it almost feels like a medium bodied paint that professional artists use, and I can feel that the texture is changing, and I'm going to paint a square to see the difference between the 2 blocks. Okay, so even with the first stroke, I can already feel that it changed the texture of the paint, and it is smooth and thick, and one stroke is completely opaque. It says on the packaging that it will, the color will fade a little bit, but I can honestly tell you that it is really difficult for me to see the color change in the 2. You can imagine that if you put white powder with a color paint, that it would become lighter. I am now mixing in quite a bit of this powder to see what happens. The paint is thick and it's got a heavy texture. I can still pick it up with my brush and paint, and it is completely opaque, but with so much powder mixed into the paint, I would think that this is more suitable for palette knife painting and creating textures on your canvas. Okay, so that is that. This is what china clay does when you mix it in with your mediums and your paints. I love it, and I'm definitely going to use it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I can't wait to see you next week. Bye for now.